Louise Minnie Weigand Christenson was born on June 1st, 1916. She was the sixth child, third daughter, of George and Rosina Weigand. My Uncle Orrin was born on September 2nd, 1916. They live on a farm located 4.5 miles south and 1/2 mile west of Wendell. This is an aerial view of their farm.
Oh, okay. Build it down.
Lou and Orrin were married on September 25th, 1938. Where were you married?
At St. John's Church in Elba Lake.
They have raised 4 children. Gerald Orrin was born on October 15, 1941. Karen Ruth was born March 17, 1943. Odell Allen was born December 15, 1947. Darla Rose was born January 4th, 1951.
And these are their graduation pictures.
Okay. How many grandchildren do you have?
We have 10.
Do you want to tell me about them?
Well, we have 4 boys?
No, 6.
6 boys and 4 girls. Right, I was wrong.
Okay, and
Yeah.
one of your grandchildren were married this last year.
We have 2 of them married. Yeah.
That's right.
Peggy Lynn has been married, or was married, and it's Paul Lundberg was married.
Lou and Orrin, how did the 2 of you meet?
We practically we grew up together. You know, Willie and Selma, they lived right across the road off of her home, and I used to stay out there a lot when I was a boy. So I've known her ever since she was about 12 years old.
Did you date back in school, or?
Yeah.
I think probably he was through high school, or through the high school that he went, yeah.
On September 25th of this last year, you celebrated your 50th anniversary.
Right.
Tell us about that day.
Well, it was a real happy day for us, and it was a nice day and a wonderful crowd. A lot of people were there, all our friends and relatives.
It's a beautiful time for
all of us. That's right.
I know that Darla and your children put together a real nice memory book.
Yes.
Okay, will you tell me about that book?
Well, this is really a surprise to us. I hadn't seen one like it before, and they wrote 2 different ones. Several of them. About midsummer, I suppose, and wanted them to write something about what they knew about us and how the times we did together. And it was really fun to read all of these, such nice letters to receive and to think way back, you know.
I just think that was a real nice idea.
Yeah, it was. It was a nice book. It sure is. And it's just, it takes a long time to read it, but you start reading, you just can't stop. You just keep right on
Sure,
reading.
you had many nice hours and memories there.
Yeah, and then there's some pictures in here too. Yeah, Peggy even had her wedding picture in here. I'll just find it right now. Yes, it was a lot of work for our family. I didn't realize they were doing all this work.
Well, you no doubt they had a lot of fun doing it.
Yes, I think they did too.
Surprises are always fun.
And this is the book that Cynthia and David gave us, long before our anniversary, because she wanted to know that we were getting this from them. So we had this here quite a while before, and that was really nice. It was just great. All the there's room for pictures and the guests. It was just really a nice book to get. All the guests that were on the guest list are on here. So that was very, very thoughtful of them, so that we knew we were getting this.
You can relive that happy day from many times.
And that's right.
That's right.
Mhm. That's,
What kinds of activities have you belonged to at your church and taken part in? And
you want to tell yours?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I've been the president of the Ladies' Aid. I think I had all the offices, the vice president, the treasurer, and the secretary. And I was the superintendent of the Sunday school for many years, and I also taught Sunday school.
kept you busy throughout the years besides raising your 4 children?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
How about
And
you?
I've been
Orrin?
a trustee, deacon, and in a treasurer. I guess that's in the, I suppose that we belonged there ever since about 38 or shortly after when we were married, up at the West Elbow Lake Church.
And that's located real close to you here,
Mhm.
Yeah,
isn't it?
4.5 miles about.
Orrin, have you and Lou lived on this farm since you've been married?
Yes,
Who did you buy your farm from?
yeah, from my father.
Okay. Generally, what did land sell for back in the year you bought the farm?
It was pretty worthless. At that time, it was almost a detriment, off of $30 to $50 an acre. So, I suppose the times that they were hard. It was about the worst time that I started up then. In the spring of '33 I started.
How large is your farm?
Well, today,
Uh-huh.
about 3/4, but it was over 700 acres a while ago before we divided up.
I'd like to know what kind of farming you did all these years.
Well, it was diversified. We had all kinds of live stock, and then corn and oats and barley and beans, everything you could imagine. I guess we tried.
Did you farm with horses when you first
Oh
started?
yeah, I sure
Do you
did.
remember your first tractor when you bought it? And
Yeah,
what
about
kind?
1940, I guess.
What kind did you have?
Well, it'll be International.
Do you remember what you paid for your tractor?
Well, it was around $500.
Well, tractors are quite different today. As we drove through Elbow Lake this afternoon, we were looking at all the Steigers and
Yeah.
the large John Deeres, and they have all the computer system and the cabs. And
Right.
Mhm.
lucky we don't have to buy one today, aren't we?
Probably been better off they hadn't made them that big.
Yeah. Orrin, you raised a large a registered dairy herd. Can you tell me what registered means?
Well, you draw a picture of them, otherwise you can take a picture of them with a Kodak, and you got to take both sides of the animal, and on whole scenes, I mean the black and the white are pretty different on all of them. And then you mail a registration over to Brattleboro, Vermont. You know, that's, the head office of the Holstein Friesian Association.
So each one is registered with
Each
that
one
association.
is registered. And it began over to Holland, I suppose, Holstein, Friesian Association.
How did you get started with the registered? Did you start out with just a few? And
Yeah, I started off with a few. I bought, 3 from Norman, either heifers and a cow. And then I bought a lot from, it was off of Darwin, McTaggart out by Campbell, and they were very good Holsteins.
how large
All
herd did
registered.
you eventually have?
Well, the most was up to 52 stalls we had.
Did you milk that many cows once, twice, or
Oh,
a
I
day? Or?
Or twice a day, yeah.
Well, I remember coming over at one time and watching your milking process. That was quite a process. Lou, were you involved with this milking too, or was it just Jerry and Odell?
No, I tried to help with it, feed the calves and with some feeding and
How long did you raise your registered cattle, or how long?
How long did you keep them, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, that would vary. They'd get to be, the cow would, the average would be about 7 years, I imagine, before they either got, went haywire. You might say off with a heavy strain on them.
Okay, you had a sale back in
75.
75. Do you want to show us your sale bill?
Yeah, I'll
And
show you the
explain a little
poster.
bit?
Well, it's a picture of a few of the better cattle on there. Oh, Pelt is the dumb.
Yeah.
If he's able to. And I don't know what else. And we had a book with all their pedigrees, and it was about 105 head we had that we sold that day.
So you had a picture of each cow that you were selling. Maybe you want to show us
Oh,
your
yeah,
book.
yeah. Yeah, but this is a whole, this is a catalog, the dispersal catalog in 75.
Open some pictures.
And there are pictures of a few of them. But not all of them in here. See, up at the top you have their picture and then their pedigree underneath here and their production and their classification. And it's a lot of work to keep up the books on a herd like just like this.
A computer would have been a nice thing to have for you when you were into that
Well, if you could
operation.
taken a picture of them, I suppose it would be.
Yeah, you'd have to be
Yeah.
picture
Well, no, it would have been nice to have a computer.
with all your, you
Yeah.
kept track of the amount of
Sure
milk
it
for
would
each one and so forth.
Yeah.
The milk tester would come once a month, take the samples of the milk in the evening and then again in the morning.
He'd stay overnight.
And stay overnight. Mm-hmm.
And then when we got on the higher tests, on that herd and or the registration, the testing, then a guy would come here. You didn't know when he would come to check on you, to make sure that it was no monkey business.
You were really a pretty busy man with the farming you did and
Yeah.
raising that many cattle.
Really too busy. You didn't get time hardly to enjoy your children the way you should have. That's the only regrets I have about it. Otherwise, it was interesting at the time.
Lou, I know you were very busy raising 4 children. Can you tell me about a day in your life as a farm wife and mother?
Oh, I don't know. The days are pretty much all the same, I think.
I know you were a gardener also.
Yeah, that's right. And I always used to do a lot of canning. And I don't know, just ordinary housework.
She had a lot of flowers right out in front here. Your dad he remembers some of that very well. He drove the school bus by here,
Oh.
and
I
he'd
remember
remark
that.
about it.
Yeah, the lawn and the garden, it seemed like it keep a person busy.
And did you have a freezer as your children were growing up? And
I don't just remember when we had our first freezer, but that was really a help.
yes, it was. I think back of the thrashing days when, I remember my mother getting ready for thrashers and no freezers. We had to do it.
Well, the first 3 years we were married, we didn't have electricity, so we didn't have nothing with electricity.
What did you do for formula for your babies?
Well,
How did you keep it cold? Or
we tried to keep it cold the best we could, and either...
No, we had a refrigerator though when Jerry was born.
Oh,
He was the first.
yeah, that's right. We
That
did
was
get
in 41, we got the refrigerator and that.
we did get electricity the year that Jerry was born. That's right.
But before that, we had to keep over the milk
In the
and
cooler?
the cream out in the cooler where we cooled our milk, or the cream. But we didn't cool milk at that time.
yeah, I remember that's what Mom and Dad did too down in the cool.
Yeah, had to run down there and get your milk.
Called it the well house.
Yeah.
No, that's
right.
when we got our electricity. It was when Jerry was born. I used my washing machine once before he was born. That's right.
What a lifesaver, wasn't it?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Well, thinking back through the years, what did your family like to do for entertainment?
Well, they liked to play ball, and we had croquet. We played that.
In the summertime, they liked to go out to the lake a while and have
And to go swimming.
afternoons to swim. Yeah, it wasn't too long. They could drive, and then we didn't have to go with them anymore.
It's got its pluses too, doesn't it? How did you celebrate birthdays and other holidays?
Oh, we usually got together and had a birthday cake and
Ice cream usually.
homemade. Well, of course, we had homemade ice cream to start with. You know,
Mm.
we always made our own ice cream.
You still do that?
No, we don't make ice cream anymore.
Well, I remember the many Christmas celebrations we used to have here.
Mhm.
You switched off with August and Evelyn.
Mhm.
And I remember that was really a fun time.
It was.
Now I know what a lot of work it was for you.
Just work, but it was fun.
But it made wonderful memories for the rest of us.
No, we look forward to that.
Even my children got in on it and still remember it, and we have
Mhm.
pictures. And Santa Claus always arrived just at that right time. And remember the kids all running to your window here.
Mhm.
Orrin, since you have retired from farming, what is it you like to do best?
Well, about all there is to do is over to fish. I could golf, but I haven't gotten started with that yet.
Well, tell me about some of your fishing. Where do you do most of your fishing?
Oh, up by Dalton and out on Pomme de Terre, and I used to out on Lightning, but that hasn't been good lately, the last 2-3 years.
Do you do any ice house fishing?
Oh yes, yeah, a lot of it.
How's it been this winter?
Not very good, about the poorest since I started.
Well, being
Ice
you've
fishing.
fished so many years, you must have a good fish story or two to tell me. I heard about one not too long ago, about a lost stringer.
Yeah, that was up on Johnson Lake up east Dalton.
What happened that day?
Well, I had my limit of northerns, and I had a few bass, pretty nice ones, and I was talking to another guy out in a boat. He was up there too. It's a stranger, but we talk, we visit a lot. And I was going to reach, and I had gotten about all I wanted, a bass, and I had my limit of northerns, and then I reached back to get my stringer, and there was no stringer there, just a piece of chain. They were gone.
Do you have any idea what happened?
It broke, that's all. It was an old one my dad had, I guess, but hadn't broken before.
Well, that's kind of a
So-
disappointment. What kind of a boat do you fish from?
Oh, just a 14-foot Lund boat. Nothing stylish. I got a little one I can push off and on wherever I want to go on the
You
trailer.
would have enjoyed the boat show down in Minneapolis a couple weeks ago.
Oh, that's too complicated.
But it's a nice,
I don't want
fishy
no
boat.
big heavy ones. I like to go where I can just, have a little boat, can push it off alone. And
Well,
then load it.
you're getting good fish from them too.
Yeah.
How big is probably the biggest fish you've ever gotten?
8 pound walleye was about the largest, and in the northerns, well, 8 or 10 in there.
Do
I
you have
never
any-
caught any really extra large ones, like 20-pound northerns or anything.
Have you ever done any salmon fishing?
No, I haven't. No,
Do you have any mounted? Did you ever mount
No.
any of your fish?
no. I'm afraid that Lou wouldn't care to have them hanging around the house anyway.
Just think of all the good meat you'd lose.
No.
Well, Lou, you are another aunt of many talents, and I would really like to talk about them and see some of them. One of my favorites is your divinity. And it looks and it tastes like it came right out of a Better Homes and Garden magazine.
Well,
You want to tell me what's your little trick to making divinity?
I don't know. You just boil up the syrup and pour it over the egg whites, and maybe you're gonna have a taste. I don't know if it's eatable or not. There, one's gone. If he comes back for another one, then I'll know it's pretty good. Oh, good.
Well, I know they all like it.
Well, it's really easy to make. Anybody can make this.
I'll have to come back for a lesson sometime because
Okay.
it's one of my favorites. And I know you make other kinds of candies. What are some of the others?
Oh, I make fudge, and I guess I've tried peanut brittle, but that doesn't always go so good.
And you had some maple sugar, brown sugar candy. I know you.
Oh,
Made that.
But that's been long ago. Long ago since I made that.
Well, it's all very good. Then I know another thing you made has been soap. And I'd like you to tell me about that. How did you make it?
How did I make it? Well, you have to render some tallow or bacon drippings or any kind of drippings, and you use a can of lye and borax
Well, that should get out all the stains.
Yeah, that's right, and then we have to do a lot of stirring. Yeah. And
Then when you use it, do you shave it off? Or how do you?
well, yeah, you can, and then put it in water and it'll kind of melt. Yeah. Otherwise, I use it just to rub on the dirty spots on the clothes, and it's so easy to pour the powder out of the boxes nowadays. I haven't made this for a long time.
We've come a long way in that respect, haven't we?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, Lou, you want to tell me about your doilies that we see here?
Well, it's been quite a while ago since I've made anything like this.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, they're real simple to make, or I wouldn't be making them.
Well,
And
pretty
this one-
complicated to me.
This one here, I probably should have had stretched out a little bit more than what it is. I know Clara needed to do it that way, they stretch them out more.
Very pretty. Are you still crocheting doilies now?
No, I haven't crocheted a doily since this is my last one I made, and that's been a while ago. I've had a little arthritis in my fingers, and I just haven't pushed myself to doing it.
Well, let's look at a couple other things that you've been doing.
Okay.
You want to tell us about that one?
Well, that isn't stamped. You just have to count. That's how
Kind
you.
of like hardowner, isn't it?
It's a little bit, I suppose, and not that complicated.
That's
Yeah.
very, very pretty.
So there, you just have to count and work at it that way, and then I just crocheted the edge around. And
Here's a beautiful set of pillowcases.
those I stamped, and then I embroidered them, and I had a lady in elbow leg to hem stitch the edge, so I crocheted the edge on there then.
And this is a dresser scarf?
That's the
It
same.
goes with.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Oh, that's pretty.
Yeah, it takes a while to make it, but at that time I guess I had more time than I have now. I haven't been doing doing things like this just lately.
Here we see a quilt that Lou has made. What is that called a butterfly quilt? Or?
That's the butterfly quilt, huh?
That ever pretty. Now, each butterfly has a different pattern. Do you recognize any dresses or
Oh yes.
things out of each one of those?
Yes, there are a lot of them in here that we have made things out of.
When did you make this?
Oh, way back in.
Just when Duane was born.
Yeah, when
wasn't it?
Duane was. I think I started when I was out in Valley City with Clara.
Did you make these in blocks and then put it together?
That's right.
And then you hand quilted them?
Yeah, and I put the little design in each corner.
That took a long time, didn't it?
It did, but at that time I guess I didn't have as much to do as I had.
Very
Later
rewarding
years.
too.
Right.
Okay, I know you've been doing some other quilting through the years too. Orrin, do you want to show us that one over there?
Well,
Why don't you tell us about that one, Lou?
Well, this is made out of wool pieces. Most of it is wool pieces.
And there too, I'm sure you have skirts and dresses and
Right. Yeah, you recognize a lot of the pieces here. Right.
what kind of stitch do you have between each one of those?
It's called the butterfly stitch?
Feathers?
No,
Feather stitch?
feather stitch. There you go. Yeah. Feather stitch. Yeah. So I'd sew them in strips, and then I'd do this way on all of them, and then I'd sew them together this, and then I'd feather stitch down the other way.
Did you use a variegated thread to do your feather stitching?
Used up all kinds of odds and ends. So you said it doesn't. Just odds and ends. That's what I've got here.
Well, it's very colorful and very pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Very warm. Now, let's tell us about this one. I know you have some projects at your church.
That's right.
Now, I recognize a piece in this one,
You do?
right here. I used to have a dress.
Oh, is that right? Uh-huh. Yeah, well, this is all odds and ends of pieces. And I didn't have enough material to make it wide enough, so I had gotten these strips here from Rosenblatt's when they quit in Fergus. And they happen to be just about that size, so then I put them together with strips so I can get the right width.
Do you get together at your church every week or once a month?
No,
or-
we make the tops at home, then we get together and then we put them on a frame and then we tie them, the ladies that come for the quilting.
Well, it's a wonderful project.
It is.
I sent Mary last week an article that I saw in one of the little papers that came to our office.
Uh-huh.
And she'll have to show it to you because it was in a hospital. And it showed one of these quilts being used there.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So
this
it's
is just a mission quilt now, so
it's a wonderful project.
we don't do any stitching, we just tie it. And if there isn't anything in between, then of course we don't have to tie it so close.
But you know, they're used for roofs, they're used for blankets,
Right.
they're used for on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
They have so many different.
Yeah, and they're
uses.
just all odds and ends of pieces that I happen to have, you know, that you don't buy anything.
That's good. Lou, something we don't hear about anymore are feet sacks. Do you remember the flowered feet sacks that we used to get?
Yeah, we have lots of them.
Did you used to make dresses for yourself and
We
your
used to.
girls?
I don't know if we made dresses, but I know we used to make pajamas.
I remember my mother used to have a lady come out like for 2 days before school started,
Mm-hmm.
and Cynthia and I had several of those feet sack dresses, and some of those are really quite pretty, but we did outgrow the time when we didn't want any more feet sack dresses. My children would never know what the word house dress means. Can you tell me?
Well, it's one that's just sewed up real quick and it's real simple. There's no ruffles and no, what I should say.
It was kind of like the women of the house always wore a dress.
Uh-huh.
They never wore slacks like we do now.
No, that's right.
And I guess we just always called it a house dress.
I guess that's what it was.
Lou, someone said I should ask you about what happened when you had your appendix out. Can you relive that?
Well, I had an appendix out and I had come through the surgery real fine and I got home and of course Dr. Parsons was my doctor and he said to come back in so and so many days, so I did. But before I went, then we had a real bad rainstorm one night, and the windows were open out on the porch, out on our front porch, and I knew nobody was up. And I thought, well, I'm going to get on and shut that window. But also in that front porch, we had a trap door opened up towards the window, and I come out from the kitchen door into that, we're going to shut that window, and I fell right down the cellar steps.
Did you roll down the stairs?
No, I just jumped, I went right down, no, I didn't roll,
What happened?
never heard a thing.
Your side was okay?
The side was okay,
Well, I bet somebody got scared. Did they hear you? Anybody hear you?
nobody heard me.
But Dr. Parson, he got a laugh out of it though when she told him about it after her operation, when she went back to have her checkup.
Kind of tough girl, weren't you?
Well, after he checked me, then I said, well, is everything okay? And he said, yeah, and then I told him what happened. He said, you little nut. He says, how much did you drink before you did that?
Well, we do have pretty good bodies, don't we?
I guess so.
Do you have any anecdotes or anything you'd like to tell about your family as, as they were growing up, some fun things that have happened to you and for some of the children? Or...
Oh, can you think?
Well, like I said the other day, what I got a kick out of us when Harlan was out here staying, and Jerry and Harlan, they went out in the alley and we had some water out here. They were going to go swimming. And when they come back, they looked just like a couple of mud hens. I'll never forget that. That was really comical.
They probably had a really good time. Kind of like the little Dennis the Menace. Huh?
Yeah.
Well, I guess so.
Well, as we think back, we've all had a lot of good times growing up.
Yeah.
And
Other than that, I can't really think of anything right off. But
well, through the years, you and Lou have done some traveling. Can you tell me about some of the trips you've taken? I know one time we happened to meet you in Las Vegas.
That's right, We've been there a few times. and we've been to Hawaii twice, and we've gone on several of the trips with Melvin, not Melvin, what's his name?
This Engen's bus
Engen's bus.
outfit down at the
Yeah, we went on several trips with them,
Garfield.
and we've been down to Florida. Well, I suppose that was with the Engen's trip, that's right.
Yeah, that was Engen's, and then out to New York.
Yeah.
We were with him there, and then we went on a cruise once with Debbie and Odell down in off the coast of Florida, Jamaica, all them islands down there. I can't remember.
How did you like the cruise? Is it a fun way to travel?
It was.
It was.
You live on water.
Yeah, relaxing.
It's
Yeah.
just surprising all that they have on those big ships. You wonder. I said it's just like a town.
And you eat well, I understand.
Oh.
Eat well. You could eat any time you wanted to, day or night.
Well, when you see the ads on TV, that sounds like a really nice vacation.
Well, one night I said I'm going to go down the basement once to see what they served during the night, and it was just a spread you wouldn't believe. And we've been to California a few times, I guess and we've been to Colorado where Agnes lives.
I think I remember you four sisters flying out to California once.
Right. Uh-huh.
You really had some nice travels, haven't you?
Right. Uh-huh.
Well, Grandma and Grandpa Weigand must have been extraordinary people. Can you tell me some things about Grandma and Grandpa that you remember? Some of the things they have taught you, some of your values?
Well, our mother was real good. She taught us how to sew and how to crochet, and to cook. And she always, in the evening, she'd always tell us to sit down and do some of our work, and she would be sitting there mending or doing things like that. But she'd like to see us do other fun things.
She had to be a very talented lady, also.
Yes, she did, and I don't know how she managed to come over here and take over the family that she started with. There was 4 of them right there to start with, you know.
I think this would be a good time to show the picture
Mm-hmm.
of Grandpa and Grandma. Like you say, when she came over, they had just evidently been married when this picture was taken.
Uh-huh. And then there was the 4 children, William, Emma, and Rosie, and Martha.
That's an excellent picture.
And there was George too, but he wasn't home. He was a baby at that time, and he stayed with, he was raised by his grandma and grandpa. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
That's Grandpa George.
Right.
Next to him is Emma,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's Bill,
Uh-huh.
and in the center there is Rosie,
Uh-huh.
and on the bottom is Martha.
Mm-hmm. And of course, our mother came from Germany, and we still think of her so often that she could come over here, not speaking and knowing how to speak English at all, and never got to go to school, and she never got to go back to Germany anymore. I mean, after she was married, so she had quite a life and raised these 4, and then there was 7 more of us. So it was a big family.
I remember her as a very quiet, very pleasant lady.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me any more about her?
Well, we had an aunt that lived just kitty corner from us, where Jimmy and Kay live now. And of course, she was a German lady too, from Germany. And about maybe twice a week, she'd walk over and she'd bring her knitting along, and she'd be knitting, and our mother would be darning socks or doing something. So they could talk their German then, you know. We could understand some of it, but not all of it. But she enjoyed that when she came, because then she got a chance to talk their language. Yeah, well, I don't know how she ever got to learn to talk English, because she didn't get to go to school.
But I don't, when I think of her, I thought she talked very good English.
She did. There were some words that were broken, but she done real well.
Well, Grandma Rosina and Grandpa George would have to be very proud of their family today. And today we have a special treat. We have the dress that Grandma Rosina was married in. The dress that Grandma Rosina was married in. It's all black, very pretty. It has lace up on the top, puffy sleeves with lace around the edge, and they narrow out to the wrist with lace around the edge. It's a very heavy dress. The skirt is pleated at the bottom with little tabs and rhinestone buttons. The dress is in very good condition.
How many years old would that be?
Well, she must have been married back in 1907.
Well, when the year before Johnny was born.
He was born in 08.
He was born in 08. They were married in
So that's
1970.
82 years old.
82 years old.
So this dress is 82 years old. And it's in excellent condition.
Well, it's about that, if it isn't just right, yeah.
I'd be interested in knowing if she made it or somebody made it for her. Okay, you want to tell us about some of the things that you have in your hand there?
Well, this is a salt and pepper, this is a salt shaker, and this is a pepper shaker that my folks used many, many days, many, many years, and this used to be the sugar bowl.
I remember that sugar bowl.
Do you?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I can remember going up to Grandma and Grandpa's house and seeing Grandpa sit by the table and by the old cook stove.
Putting sugar in his coffee.
Mhm. And Grandma always she had always soaked, was it crackers or bread?
Bread in the coffee.
Uh-huh. And she always had that in the cupboard.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, you have all remained such a close family, and when I think of all of you 12 children have remained within about a 20-mile
Right.
radius,
Right.
and you've enjoyed many good times together as a family. The Weigand heritage is one that I am very proud of, and have chosen this video as one way to preserve it for my children. Lou and Orrin, you and your family have been very special to me, and I have many wonderful memories of good times we've had with you, and still do. And I thank you for sharing them with me today.
You're welcome.